Now let's look at France. The country is riding high right now. It just had a major diplomatic victory, the recent ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. France was praised for its role in it, for mediating with Lebanon and pushing the ceasefire deal through. Paris was basking in praise, and it decided to use this goodwill as a cover to make a controversial statement. A statement about the ICC, the International Criminal Court. But before we get to that, let's give you some background. The ICC issued arrest warrants last week for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister of Israel Yoav Gallant. The court said that they may have committed war crimes in Gaza and that Israel used starvation as a method of warfare. It committed various crimes against humanity, hence the arrest warrants against the Prime Minister and the former Defense Minister. That was this case. What does this warrant mean? The ICC does not have a police force, so who will arrest them? Member countries. All countries that are party to the ICC, they now have an obligation to arrest Netanyahu and Gallant. If they enter your territory, you arrest them and send them to The Hague, which is the headquarters of the ICC. That's where they will be tried, and the court will decide if they are guilty. So that is the current status of the ICC case. Where does France figure in this? France is a signatory to the ICC. This court has 125 countries as signatories. France is one of them. So it is obligated to arrest Netanyahu and Gallant. But Paris doesn't want to. It's been sending mixed signals since the warrants came out. This was the French foreign minister yesterday trying to pull off a balancing act.
Benjamin Netanyahu is now the subject of an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court for war crimes and crimes against humanity. If the Israeli prime minister were to set foot on French soil, concretely, and without political cant, would he be arrested?
France will apply, as always, international law which is based on its obligations to cooperate with the International Criminal Court, obligation with regard to its adherence to the Rome Statute which provides for, and which deals with questions of immunity on some leaders. In any event, it is ultimately up to the judicial authority to decide.
He said France would cooperate with the ICC. Then he mentioned something about immunity. And then he brushed it all off by saying that it was up to the judicial authorities. It sounded like he was looking for an excuse to not arrest the Israeli leaders. Then, later in the day, the French Foreign Ministry put out this notice. I'll read the operative part for you. A state cannot be required to act inconsistently with its obligations under international law with respect to the immunities of states not party to the ICC. Such immunities apply to Prime Minister Netanyahu and other ministers concerned and will have to be taken into account should the ICC request of us their arrest and surrender. Basically, France is saying that Netanyahu is immune from arrest because Israel is not a signatory to the ICC, so they won't arrest him if he enters French territory. This is a break with the majority view in Europe. Most European nations have said that they will arrest Netanyahu and then let the ICC decide what to do with him. But France is not towing the European line, and it is using a strange excuse. It says Netanyahu is immune from arrest because Israel is not an ICC signatory, which is fine. It is true that Israel never signed on with the ICC. Multiple countries have not. India has not. The US has not. China hasn't. But the state of Palestine is an ICC member. So any crime in the Palestinian territories can be investigated by the ICC, and this includes the West Bank and Gaza. And this is why the Israeli leaders are being investigated. There's a legal debate around this, which I won't get into. I just want to highlight France's hypocrisy here, because last year the ICC had issued a similar warrant for Vladimir Putin. Now, Russia too is not a party to the ICC, but the warrant was issued for Putin's alleged crimes in Ukraine. Did France talk about immunity back then? Listen to their statement from the same French Foreign Ministry. This is about Putin. True to its long-standing commitment to combat impunity, France will continue to lend its support to the essential work of the international courts to ensure that those responsible for all the crimes committed in Ukraine are held accountable. They also said this: no one responsible for crimes committed by Russia and Ukraine, regardless of their status, should escape justice. So Paris was happy to champion accountability and justice when it came to Vladimir Putin. But when it's about Netanyahu, suddenly they care about immunity. It's another classic case of Western hypocrisy.